Okay, first of all, please check my description box for all the details, such as written pattern. Today, I'm going to actually talk about only connection, front and back, right there, and balloon sleeve, which means I'm not going to talk about the neck rib and, Raglan increasing. If you want it, there's the link in my description box. Okay, so let's get started. Hey yo, welcome to my channel. Here I share step-by-step knitting tutorials that even complete beginners can follow with ease. And the best part, I also offer all the patterns I use. I'm planning to add more tools and self-learning videos in the future, so if you find my content helpful, I'd love your support. Of course, things like likes, subscribing to the channel, and kind comments mean the world to me. And if you like to go a step farther, I've also started a Buy Me a Coffee page where you can support my work through small donations. I'll be sharing or offering for sale some useful knitting tools and patterns. So feel free to check out the link in the description. You can join as a free member too. And by the way, I also have a blog where I talk about my everyday life totally unrelated to knitting. So if you are curious, come hang out there too. Thank you for watching, and let's keep knitting fun and cozy together. Okay, so today, as I told you, I'm gonna talk about connection of sleeve and the perfect shape of balloon sleeve. Look at that. It's beautiful. Okay, it's very, very cute sweater. Okay, so that connection, I started with the connection between front and back pieces. Okay, and I add 18 stitches right there. Okay, when I separate the sleeve, I add 18 stitches in between front and back. Okay, that's the base of the sleeve. It's under your armpit. And how many stitches? It's really up to you. But, I kind of want to make the buggy sleeve, so I add 18 stitches. Also, I will add the begin marker in the center of this new cast connection. Okay, that's gotta be your new begin marker. And I add one clip-on marker just before the last original stitch, and I am going to add one more clip-on marker just before the last new cast stitch. Okay, and from the last stitch, okay, in between last stitch and first new cast on stitch, there's a little gap. Okay, so I am going to knit up 2 extra stitch over here. Okay, because if I start with the new cast, okay, not including those 2 stitches, it's gonna be a huge gap, and you have to do seam. And obviously the other side as well, just before the first original stitch and last new cast. Look at that, that's a huge gap, right? So what I have to do is you have to knit up 2 extra this side as well. So let's do that together. Okay? So right after the last original, there's 2 running thread before the new cast. Then I am going to knit those 2 extra up. However, okay, if I grab only running thread like that, you make another gap. So I borrow 1 thread around that area and then knit up. You know what I'm saying? don't just knit up with running thread. There you go. And this is next running thread. See, I'm getting, stitch from near the running thread like that. There we go. And then knit up. So you can minimize the gap around that area first. Okay? So now I knit up first and second extra. Then let's knit up the new cast. For me, as I told you, 18 stitches, right? And I also said I am going to add begin marker in the center of new cast, which means 18 divided by 2. So after I knit up 9, okay, don't include the 2 extra stitch, I add begin marker. Okay, and then I am going to knit up another 9 stitches, right? However, okay, before the last stitch, which is 18th stitch for me, okay, before you knit up 18th stitch, I am going to add another clip-on marker, okay? There's reason. It's just an indication, okay? There you go. I am going to add one more marker here, okay? That's the same indication clip-on marker. Then one last knit up from the cast, new cast, right? And then now I knit up third and fourth extra, the running thread. Do you remember? And again, if you knit up like that, you create the huge gap. So borrow the stitch nearby, and then grab running thread like that, and then knit up. So you can first minimize. I'm actually switching the direction of the stitch, so it's easier to knit up. And the last knit up is right there. There we go. And next stitch will be the first original, right? So anyway, I am going to knit until the red clip-on marker. Okay, the reason for this red, and yellow clip-on, okay, right after the red clip-on, there's the one last original stitch, and then 2 extra, okay? And after that, just all the knit up stitches above the new cast, and then 2 extra stitch, right? So what I'm going to do is, I increase 2 stitch both side. Now I decrease 2 stitch for both side with original stitch. Okay, so one last stitch and first extra stitch, decrease, and second extra stitch and original new stitch, I am going to decrease. So this is the one last stitch, and then first extra, slip, slip, knit, SSK. There we go. And then next one will be second extra stitch and first new cast knit up stitch, right? Knit two together to decrease 1 stitch. This way, okay, around that gap, you increase 2 extra and decrease 2 extra. So the stitch counter should be same. also you can minimize the gap. You know what I'm saying? So we will do same thing for the other side. Can you see the yellow clip-on marker? This is actually begin marker, right? So just pass it. And when you hit the yellow clip-on marker, you gotta do exactly same thing. Right after the yellow clip-on marker, that's the last stitch of the new cast knit up, right? And then next one is third extra stitch, SSK. So to minimize the gap, you always create extra stitch and then decrease with original stitch. There you go. And next one is extra fourth stitch and first original stitch knitted together to decrease. You know what I'm saying? This way, seriously, believe me, you can minimize the gap around that, armpit. So you don't really need to, close the gap. Okay, so now let me talk about the balloon shape of the sleeve. Okay? I just connect. So this is a little bit tricky. So I just want you to find out 3 numbers. First, current stitch count. Just count how many stitches you have. I have 99 stitches. Also, you have to decide how long you want for your sleeve. And I decide my sleeve ends around just before the elbow. So 6 inches. Now, goal stitch count. How much you want for the rib. I wrap it around like that and I measure my elbow area and it was 8.5. Or you can actually just count and 54, something like that. And then we have to do a little bit of the math, how much you have to and how you want to increase. So let's move on. Okay, I open up my math gauge template and if you do have my math gauge template, please use it because it's simple and you don't have to worry about doing math by yourself. But if you don't have this math gauge template, you have 2 options. You can buy my math gauge template. It's only 7 Canadian dollars. And there's the link in my description box, or you can do your math by yourself. It's just a simple ratio math. You don't really have to worry about, just follow my written instruction. However, if you don't like doing math or you just want to skip the headache part, why don't you consider purchasing my gauge template? It's quite useful. Anyway, so here is my gauge knitting tension, 4 inch by 4 inch, 25 and 26, which means, I have 25 stitch count width and 4 inch width and 36 rows width and 4 inch height. You need this number, okay? So first of all, I have 99 stitch count, as I told you, right? And I want to knit 6 inches, which is just before above the elbow. So how are you going to find out? You knit little bit and then, measure it? No, that's ridiculous, right? So you should find out the row count that you are going to knit. That way, you just have to count the rows you knit. So the 6 stitches, 6 inches long, which means height. So I'm gonna put the 6 inches here. There you go, 54. So if I wanna knit 6 inches, okay, before the rib, I need to knit 54 rows. That's what you have to remember. Okay. Another word, if you knit 54 rows, you have to actually start knitting rib. That's all. Okay. And next, my goal stitch count just before the rib starts, and it was 54 stitch count. Don't forget, this is row, 54 rows for height, and this is stitches. Okay, don't get confused. That's because, these are the, two same numbers. Anyway, so I want 54 stitches. However, I said double this number. So you have to have 108 stitches. Why? Okay, because of the shape of the balloon. So if you have 108 and knit, knit, knit all the way down to 54 rows, and suddenly you decrease the stitch counts to 54, decrease half, then you can create the shape of the balloon. You know what I'm saying? So double and decrease double. Another word, if you make more stitches, okay, and then you decrease, kind of triple. You know what I'm saying? So 54, another word, 54 times 3 is 106, okay? 162. Somehow you increase. And then at the bottom of the sleeve, you decrease to 54, which means you have a more effect of the balloon. You know what I'm saying? The big sleeve. But the rib is very small. You know what I'm saying? So it's really up to you. But the regular balloon, you should have double stitch count. Okay, so let's go down. Now, number 16, increasing within one row. Okay, I want to increase within one row. If you have too many, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe 2 or 3. But, this time I am going to increase within one row. So now I have only 99, right? And my total stitch count is 108. Remember, 108. There we go. So this means 108 minus 99 is 9 stitches. So if I want to increase 9 stitch to, get the 108 stitch count in total, 11 frequency, you have to increase 1 stitch every 11 stitches. You know what I'm saying? That's all. Easy, simple, isn't it? Okay, and this number divided by 2 is 54, right? So 54 is good because it's even number. But if this number is 110, 110 divided by 2 is 55. 55 is not an even number because, why even number? Because I will have 1 by 1 ribbon. So you need multiply of 2 stitch count. Okay, so you got to remember that. So when you pick this number, it has to be multiple of 4. Then you ended up having the even number when you divide it by 2. Okay, so anyway, that's what I'm going to do. But if you have, 112, that's your goal. Then look at this, 7.6. Then it says set. What do you mean by that? There's no 0.61 stitch count in knitting. So you have to pick either 7 or 8. So if you pick up 7, the increase in total is 14. So think about it. And if you increase 1 stitch every 8, you ended up 12 stitch count. However, again, the total stitch count has to be, multiple of 4. So you kind of have to think, okay, what you want to do. Okay, it's really up to you. Anyway, my number is 108. So this is what I'm going to do. I am going to increase 1 stitch every 11 stitches so I can actually have 108 at the end. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, 2 rows before my finish row count, which is 54. So this is on the 52nd row, I add markers. I add markers every 11 stitches. So, I don't really have to worry about increasing, evenly. I don't really have to count, right? So, there you go. I add markers every 11 stitches, total of 9, because I am going to increase 9 stitches in one round. So after this, simple, you can actually increase any way you like. I am going to increase make one right on right side of the marker. If you like make one left, you can do make one left, left side of the marker. And don't forget about the begin marker, okay? Anyway, sorry, it's hard to see, but make one right. You already know how to do make one right, right? And remove the marker and knit until one last stitch before the next marker. Okay? Simple. You can use the yarn over. You can use the, knit front and back if you want. So this is number 53rd. Make one right, and there you go. You just have to do knit round, so 53. Okay, and like I said, don't forget about the increasing around the begin marker, and I use make one right, so I have to increase one stitch just before the begin marker, and now I have 108 stitch count total, and the last row, which is 54th row for me, knit one round. Okay, don't start the the ribbon because I don't want it. There you go. Slightly increase. It's it's like a kimono type of shape right now, but I am going to decrease in half. Then you can create that balloon shape. Okay, believe me, don't worry about it. So put the begin marker back on, and easy repeat of knit two together. If you want to use the SSK, fine. Okay, I just do knit two together one round. So the stitch count should be half, right? I will have 54. And when you actually decrease one round, you don't really see the balloon shape, but don't worry about it. After you add ribbon, you will see. Okay, don't worry about that. Again, if you want to make huge balloon, you can increase way more and then decrease more, like knit three together, something like that. Okay, but there you go. Knit one round and then adding the the rib after that, and I use knit back loop technique this time. So repeat of knit back loop and purl one until your desired one. Okay, so knit back loop, easy, just knit back loop, that's all. Okay, so I used to increase slowly around the bottom of the sleeve. You can do that. However, you only increase the bottom part of the sleeve, right? So if you really want to make the perfect shape of the balloon, you should increase stitches in one row evenly. Then you will have perfect shape of the balloon. Anyway, I've just finished the one by one ribbon, and now binding off. It's simple, so I'm not going to talk about it. Okay. Anyway, again, if it's not too many stitches, you can actually increase the bottom of the sleeve. However, again, if you want to have the perfect balloon round shape, obviously you should increase evenly in one round, especially if you have to increase lots more stitch count. You should use this technique. There you go. Look at this. This is perfect. Beautiful balloon shape. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you learned something and enjoy knitting. If you have any question, let me know in the comment section. Bye for now.